WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We're positive taking the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road this week. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I'll have some holiday cash drops as well as some Raven scratch-offs. They're left over, but the winnings are still on the tickets. We'll be at G&A, Coney Island hot dog from Highlandtown all the way out to White Marsh. That'll be Thursday from 1 until 4, brought to you by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with our friends at Window Nation, 866-90Nation, keeping me nice and warm and toasty here during this pre-Festivus super wild card weekend of activities. I've been looking forward to this chat. I will join him on his program on Thursday. You know, Dennis, I feel bad. Some Thursdays you've been on, there's been Thanksgiving, there's been weird games, there's been holidays, there have been Saturday night games and Sundays or whatever. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's Festivus, it's playoffs, it's big boy time. I am looking forward to every conversation I have this week because this is when the going gets tough. And all the way around, this is when the stakes get really rise, and we get to see what all these teams, franchises, quarterbacks, coaches, key players, superstars, this is when the stars shine, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. But what I disagree with is this vibe that because the defense put up a great effort against the Bengals and the offense set down some star players, that this is somehow a feel-good moral victory for the Ravens, and they just can't wait to get at them the following week. I probably wouldn't make a good interview if I was a player or a coach, because after a loss, I would have nothing to say, and after a win, I would have even less to say. Can't assess their chances as they go back to the jungle a week from now, Nestor, but again, I'm not one for moral victories. You know, you lost the game, you showed up, next man up, didn't play well enough. Your third string quarterback turned the ball over. So to me, I don't have much Festivus. I'm like from Missouri, the show me state. I want to see some victories here.
Well, you are in the overwhelming majority, right? Like I asked you last week, could we get a bus together to go to Buffalo, go up to Niagara Falls, see how pretty it is, eat some wings, go out in the parking lot, you do some dives onto some table, like do it up, right? I mean, we could do it. And we wind up going to Cincinnati, where we just were in Cincinnati the day before yesterday, and trying to drum up. I mean, if Harbaugh wants to kiss the ass of some fans after the game this Sunday night, whoever goes out there on Sunday, and by the way, I booked my flight this morning. I will be turned down by Chad. But I have a full commitment to cover the team. I have a flight. I have a hotel room in Cincinnati. I do. They play at 8:15.
You're welcome in 38 cities around the country, Nestor. In a press box in 31 cities.
We'll find out at the Blackburn.
Just not the one you've been bleeding purple for your entire lifetime, right? That's all.
For you to say, not for me. All I know is it'll be the first playoff game I've ever missed that's not plague related. The Buffalo game a couple years ago, you need to go there 3 days ahead of time. New York State, check your nose on Thursday to get in on Sunday. It was like crazy. But this particular game here, and they're going to lock me out. They're going to deny me a credential, whatever. There's going to be 2 reporters there at midnight on a Sunday night. Give me a scenario, Dennis. I mean, we're early into this. Luke and I have been at this all week long. I said to him, give me the Pleasantville victory story. Write me the game story for Monday morning next week as to how the Ravens keep their season alive and how they go back to Cincinnati and win. What has to happen here this week?
The Ravens have to play perfect games going forward. We said that leading up to the playoffs, and that was with Lamar Jackson under center, not Anthony Brown, all right, at quarterback. So that for me is the headline. They have to play perfect football. They can't turn it over. They have to dominate the clock. They have to score points, touchdowns when they do, if in fact they dominate the clock. Defense has to continue to play well. But for me, they have to play perfect football with Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, or Anthony Brown under center. It's as simple as that, Nestor. Their margin for error is very, very slim. They don't have the luxury of the weapons and the firepower that the Bengals present, nor the Chiefs, nor the Bills, to go forward.
Well, I mean, we've been watching the games, right? And where the signs of life are for this franchise would be J.K. Dobbins in the running game. But listen, without Lamar playing on Sunday night, and like, you know this, Vegas thinks Lamar's playing. They started this at 6.5 points, right? Like, the Ravens have told reporters that he was closer to playing a couple of weeks ago, right? He has no agent, so he has nobody backdooring or saying, let's get a second opinion on your knee, and we're going to make a statement about 1 to 3 weeks on your PCL injury, or we hope to have you back for the playoffs. We hope to have you back for the Cincinnati game. Not what the team did, which was portray it to Rich Eisen and NFL Network and other reporters. I'm not one of those people anymore, which is to their detriment, not to their benefit. It's stupid. And Eric and John should know that, that having me as a resource on the radio speaking truth is better than them selling me some rat poison. And I say something like, he'll be back for the Atlanta game, like NFL Network went and put their credibility on the line for 5 hours of a broadcast, and then he doesn't come back. And then it's, oh, is the kid soft? Is the kid not practicing? Is the kid not doing what he should be doing? Is he staying off his knee? And then there's a swollen knee. So there's all of this whack-a-mole of some of it's got to be misinformation, right? Some of it's information, some of it's misinformation, that they've let this thing sort of get to the point where nobody knows if he's playing. And the Harbaugh families always love this state of confusion for the opponent, right? It's part of their art of war. That confuse the other side, never let on what's going on. Here we are. I mean, we're all going to know at 8:15 on Sunday night whether he's going to play or not. And to Luke's point, if he's not out practicing in the middle of the week, he's not going to ring rust this 6 weeks into this, and they're going to throw him out there and have him gimp around. I mean, that's the last thing they want to do, right? It's the last thing he should want to do as a superstar athlete. So this is so complex what's going on with them right now.
Well, this is Dennis's viewpoint. Let me ask a question, Nestor. He signed for $23 million this season, right? He gets 17 game checks. So if he plays in the playoffs, first of all, is he covered in any way, shape, or form for injury? And does he get any more game checks? And if his knee is at 80% and it's still swollen, why would he want to play? That's the other piece of it. So I think as of right now, he's not under contract. He's no longer under contract by the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, you're speaking like the businessman, right?
Yeah.
Listen, you and I got together all summer and said if we were him, we probably wouldn't play without a deal because it wouldn't be prudent to, I mean, whether it's 232 million or 141 million or 118 million, get yourself paid now. 23 million's not enough. And that's why the Ravens are coming to you and saying, here's 112 million, whatever the number was, right? Here's the life-altering thing for you. We're going to buy insurance on your contract,
right?
Because we don't want to be put out if something catastrophic happens. I don't, and the kid doesn't speak, right? Other than on Twitter when he's retweeting his music buddies, right?
Right.
Like,
and his contract, again, it expired Sunday against the Bengals. That's when he cashed the 17th check. That's when the 17th check, Nestor hit the bank. So he doesn't have a contract heading into the playoffs. To my knowledge, somebody else correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I think he's done. There is no contract. There's no guarantee for him. And I think all of us, it's not a stretch to think that when 2023 comes around in terms of the new contract, he gets franchised. I don't think he plays on the franchise tag. He wants that $250 million guarantee. That's what he wants.
His value it's amazing. We start talking about his value as a football player because it's apparent what they are without him, right? Like this has been very clear for 2 years. 8-3, 8-4. This is what it's like without me. And then they would say to him, what's it like to have you healthy in January? Because we haven't seen that either. Right. That would be the other side, is to say, you want us to guarantee you that what? You won't play next January or the one after that or one out of the next 3 or 2 out of the next 4? Or will we even be there? Because if you get hurt in September, right? Like, this was never a great idea on a risk reward. This was an experiment. And it was spoken as an experiment that they could walk away from and say, we tried, we couldn't get an RPO quarterback healthy Christmas week, and for that reason, we're out. We're going to walk away, we're out, we're just out, we're going to do it differently. Now, and if the Ravens were to say that, and he doesn't play Sunday night, that's a nice handbook for them, is to say, we love that kid,
Sure.
But we're not giving that kid this money. We're going to deal him where he gets a better tax situation. If Mr. Ross wants to give him $281 million to come down and sell Fantasyland in South Beach, and he gets a better tax situation, and we get 3 number ones out of it, Eric, I can hear Steve saying, Eric,
yep,
make the picks. You know what I mean? Like,
make the picks.
And we'll keep the money, and we'll figure out how we'll get 9 wins. I mean, Mike Tomlin got the 9. We'll get the 9 next. We'll get something. We'll concoct. We'll have, George will dream something up. We'll come up with something. I don't know. It won't be Tyler Huntley, right? I mean, it won't be Anthony Brown. But
right.
For me, this is the week all this happens, and whatever the spin is, and the fact that they let it get to Lamar's not doing his work behind the scenes, Lamar's limping, Lamar's swollen, whatever any of this is, for you and for a lot of people in the fan base, whatever Monday morning means being eliminated isn't good enough, right? There's no point where playing well and Lamar gippers this and Willis reads and they lose 28-27 because Tucker misses a 58-yard, whatever. If the season ends Monday, this is a bad year for them, right? I mean, expectation-wise?
Yeah, it is, because particularly with the way the season started, with all the uncertainty, Lamar Jackson was playing at the MVP level the first 4 weeks of the season, and then the wheels started coming off the cart at the Giants game when he made some terrible decisions. But yeah, it'll be a big disappointment, Nestor. They're back into the playoffs. It just doesn't feel real good. You're down to a third string quarterback. I mean, the team is fighting. There's some good there in the defense. The defense is showing up. There's a chance against the Bengals just because they're familiar with them, right? The third time they're playing them this year. They're coming off of a loss. They turned the ball over. They hung in there. They made a game out of it. And so we'll see what happens. But from a fan standpoint, the other piece is anything can happen. We've seen this before in the NFL. We've seen the improbable 2012 run to the Super Bowl, that version of the Baltimore Ravens, although that was a differently constructed squad, many more veteran players. You had Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs on there, and they figured out, they put it together for the playoffs. But when you're down to your third string quarterback now, and your second string quarterback hasn't set the world on fire, you have to dislike your chances moving forward.
Do you think he'll play? And by the time people hear this on Wednesday or Thursday, he'll either be on the field or you don't think he'll play Sunday night?
I've said if he's healthy enough to play, I think he'll play because he's that guy. But he has to be 90% for him to get out there. I think anything less than that, he just doesn't do it. But I think if he can play, he's just a different cat. I think he'll be there. I have crab cakes on this thing with one of my sponsors that if he and I said he would play, and I said this weeks ago. If he can play, he'll be out there. I believe that. Now, will we see him out there? That's remains to be seen.
Well, they can't win without him. You would agree with that, right?
Well, I'm an optimistic. They don't have a great chance to win without him, but can they win? Can they win without him? Sure. I mean, lightning can strike, anything can happen, and then a team gets fired. They get hot. They get on fire. They dilferize the offense. They have this kid Anthony Brown or Tyrell Huntley sit there and just hand the ball off to Dobbins and whomever, and the defense plays well, and you get great special teams, and we'll see how far that takes them. But sometimes, they can catch lightning in a bottle.
Well, I mean, they're going to start picking on Peters, right? They picked on the kid on Sunday that wasn't even on the team 6 weeks ago, right?
If Peters plays, Stevens, he was. They also shelved him for the game. But if Peters will play when he wants to play, and if he's ready to play, he'll be out there. But we'll see what happens. But Mike McDonald's defense has done a good job against the Bengals this year. That's indisputable, and they've gotten better with the addition of one Roquan Smith.
Well, if you would have told me in the Wayback Machine in September that they're in the playoffs, they're playing Cincinnati on the road. They have a healthy Mark Andrews. They have Ronnie Stanley on the field and playing. Yeah. They've dealt for Roquan Smith. Marlon Humphrey would have come back to form to earn his money, which he has this year in that position. So Calais Campbell standing upright, the offensive line standing mainly upright at this point. J.K. Dobbins is back and has shown enough that he's – there's things to recommend them. Aside from Lamar, and that's the purple elephant in the room, right? All of it, everything around Lamar and the offense and his money and his health and his future and all of that. But aside from all of that, if on Monday morning somehow they've won this game 28-24 because they had a pick six, they blocked the kick, Tucker made a couple of kicks, they took the ball away, Burrow hit the Hayden Hurst and Patrick Queen, the ball goes up in the air. Things happen. If that sort of thing were to happen for them defensively, running the football, there are some things that you could. They had a double-digit lead the first 11 weeks of the year. They were a pretty decent football team, right? And if they can start to run the ball downhill on you a little bit, and if the Bengals are missing their offensive linemen and there's a little bit more penetration, a little bit more on Burrow to get a ball to go up in the air and get a pick or two, I'm trying to envision fantasy land that we're going to Kansas City eating barbecue next weekend.
Yeah, they have a chance. You have to like how the defense played. There was a certain chippiness, particularly by that defense. They got after him real hard. You saw David Ojabo look very big, very strong, very twitchy, very fast. He caused a turnover. He caused Joe Burrow to fumble. I also think there's a sense maybe that a sense of arrogance for the Bengals. We got this. We're better than the Ravens. No different than when the Ravens were playing the Steelers the second time around. If you heard what the Ravens players were saying, we got this team. We got some bravado. This is a man's game. And Mike Tomlin, our good friend Mike Tomlin, used all that and came in and kicked the Ravens' butts on the Sunday night. So I do think there might be some of that happening in this game coming up with the Bengals.
Well, that eliminates from the leadership, right? That's where Roethlisberger would go out on a stretcher like Lowenstein and come back in and, and be the hero and Gimp and like all of that and play through it all and get nose bloodied by the loading out, all that, right? Burrow is smoking cigars and wagging his finger and doing his thing, and I don't hate
that
him
kind
yet.
of stuff. I'm not big on that kind of stuff, man. You haven't won anything, son. Dan Marino went to the Super Bowl his sophomore season, never went back again. Be careful. Just be careful. It's a week-to-week league. It's a day-to-day league. A lot of things can happen. He's going to get his feelings hurt with that kind of an attitude. He really is. Like to see more humility from the Bengals. Like to see more humility from every team. But it's like Art Modell says: when you win, you say; when you lose, you say nothing. When you win, you say even less. You don't want to give these grown men more motivation than what they need. I don't want to hear Justin Houston saying, you know what, we can't wait to see him next week. You know what? Save that for your locker room. Don't give those guys bulletin board material. Just listen, we lost. They were the better team today, and move forward. And internally, you can say whatever you want, but externally, just keep your mouth shut and go out there and do your job.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He will be here again on Thursday from 3 until 5 doing the Sunday Sports Voice. And again on Sunday morning, get you ready for the games on Sunday night. The Ravens playing at 8:15 in Cincinnati, as Earl Weaver once said. Do you take anything from the game on Sunday that stands out as something to even discuss from the way we usually spend the Monday morning saying they did this well? It really felt like the third string quarterback thing. The thing that was interesting to me was the fact that they were throwing the ball and weren't afraid to throw the ball with the third string quarterback. They wound up losing the game because of that, and whatever that means, right? That they threw the interceptions. But I found that to be an interesting sort of, this kid went to Oregon. He'll throw the ball a little bit. Didn't throw it as well as he needed to throw it at this level. Timing, all of it looked like something out of a B-League movie, quite frankly.
But he also said he just found out he was starting right before the kickoff, right? So he didn't have a lot of time to prepare himself mentally to be the starter. I thought he did a great job given the circumstances. Hostile atmosphere, sold-out stadium, Bengals fans at a fever pitch. He settled down in that second half, Nestor. I thought he came up pretty big in that moment. Now, can he run the ball against this defense with J.K. Dobbins? That'll help him out for sure. But getting Isaiah Likely out there for 100 yards and receptions, Charlie Kohler, I think he had 4 for 49. You'd have to like that. David Ojabo coming off the edge. I like these young players that they showcased in the game against the Bengals. And you add in the mix the 4 starters that were out a week ago. You know what? They have a puncher's chance. I really do. I'm going to watch the game, be fired up for it, and wish them all the best.
Well, Dennis will be here and there. He's also at a Coons Baltimore Ford Security Boulevard. So what's going on New Year on the line? Give me We've been through all this, through COVID,
We
before
have.
COVID, all that, online, like all of that. What's percolating in 2023 at the Ford Motor Company?
See, you wouldn't know that COVID even passed through Coonsford to Baltimore because business has been very good for us. We delivered 48 vehicles over the weekend. Most of them were new. The rest were pre-owned, of course, but business remains very good. We have about 200 new vehicles in stock, over 200 used vehicles in stock. So for us, Nestor, the phone rings, the door swings, and the leads keep coming in, which means that we have the best inventory in the region and we treat people right. When you do that, when you answer the phone enthusiastically, when you have a lot of repeat referrals, when you have great advertising through WNST, you tend to make a difference in the community, and we appreciate that.
I'm looking over your shoulder, your best places to work. So I see that.
It is. I wouldn't dream of working anyplace else. I mean, Mr. Coons knows he has a lifer in me.
Well, that's it. Dennis Koulatsos is here. He'll be watching football week. This is the fun time of year, right? I mean, like looking
Absolutely.
forward to games. And I didn't get a great chance to talk to you about it in this way last week, the DeMar Hamlin situation and
Yes.
everything that transpired in that game and that night. My wife and I have been sequestered this year, right? I'm not in airports. I'm not flying around. I'm not missing Sunday night games trying to get to the Houston airport and doing morning radio and doing all the things I was doing.
Mhm.
I literally have been a slave to television and watching all the games on television, right? Except on Thursday nights, we watch them on on the devices now because the television
Right.
doesn't get Al Michaels anymore and Kirk Herbstreit. All year long, I get the schedule at beginning of the week, and I know I'm going to talk to you on Thursday, and Luke and I, and guest, and wherever, even if I'm out, just out people want to talk football with me, right? And I love football. I've loved it my whole life. I'm wearing my Houston Oilers. This is not
Yes.
in support of the Chargers, by the way. This is just the Oiler old school. So, I guess through this period of time and like moving into playoff time for me and where we are, this is like the most wonderful time of the year. And it's about big games, right? Like I remember that Dolphins Bears Monday night game in 85. And I think
Yes.
about big games and all year long, the Sunday night games, for the most part, I don't really care about the Giants and the Cowboys and the Eagles. Like none of them made me say, "Hey, take a nap. Let's get some drinks out. Let's get some food out. We're gonna watch the game tonight. I'm really into the game tonight." That game was the game like a playoff game, where
Mhm.
like all day long I was looking forward to it. It was Buffalo and Cincinnati, and
Sure.
it's unbelievably, and I was going to say tragic, and obviously a lot of tragedy involved there, but this kid's going to make it. I think he's going to wind up doing incredible things, and we're a week into this, and it is what it is, and it's going to wind up being an incredible thing. But there was a point for me with that saying big games are something that the league, because of the playoffs, everybody makes the playoffs. There's Thursday night football, Sunday, the big games, right? Like there aren't many. And the playoffs, every one of them is that way. And that's what I love about this time of year is that I turn everything off for a couple of days. I wouldn't be fishing on Sunday if I were you, Dennis. Come on.
No, nope. I'm watching the big games myself. It's a great time of the year. You have great matchups. You have the favorites, you have the underdogs, and as we've seen in the past several decades, Nestor, anything can happen, and it usually does. There's always a dark horse team that comes out of nowhere and really messes up everybody's pool. Hopefully this year it'll be the Ravens. Some way, somehow they can flash. Maybe they get by the Bengals with a second or third string quarterback. Maybe the game after that, Lamar comes off, dusts off the rust, and leads a team to the Super Bowl. Wouldn't that be something?
Who do you believe in? Who's
Mm,
going to be in the Super Bowl in
hmm.
Glendale?
That's a great question. You know what? I'm going to say that it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles. That's who I see.
You're going
Yeah, I
chalk.
mean, yeah, I'm going chalk. I am.
Well,
The
you have to
Bills
play
are
one
worse
less
now.
game, right? I mean, and you're
Yeah.
the only best team. It's an incredible advantage to be a one seed versus what it used to be, right?
Look, I don't always bet the biggest and the strongest, but that's the way to go, right? So let's bet the favorites. They've both been the best teams in the league for the whole season, particularly the Eagles in the NFC. But anything could happen. The big trifecta in the AFC conference, of course, the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. And as I said previously, hopefully the Ravens find a way to knock off those dreaded Bengals. Who I will not be rooting for. Who will not be rooting for that team if they advance. By the way, I will not.
Dennis, as the guy that has done bus trips to Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, New England, I'm just thinking of all these places we've gone for playoff games, road trips to Kansas City.
Sure.
We played all these playoff games, and I guess I think about this one in Cincinnati and where the morale is for the city, going into this thing. I cannot imagine how quickly the purple bus would move on Sunday night if they go to Cincinnati and win. And I'm not impressively, they're not going to win like that. But if they just win, if they just kick a field goal and win, the purple light will turn back on here very, very quickly, I would think.
It would. And the thing is, for me, is this as a fan, I wouldn't want to play the same team 2 weeks in a row. I just wouldn't. If it was reverse, let's say the Ravens were playing here and just beat the Bengals and the Bengals are coming back. From a fan standpoint, I'd like to see somebody different, someone other than the team we just played, whether we beat them or not, just from a freshness standpoint, right? So I don't think this is going to be great for the Bengals fans to come after for a second week in a row to watch the same team play their Bengals.
Well, and I thought about those fans the other day, that how many of them had the experience of being at the Bills game, prior to that, and thinking that I remember. I remember the night the fans cheered Kyle Bowler getting hurt.
I was there. That was terrible. That was horrible. I had Colts fans behind me cheering with them. I mean, it just, you can't fix stupid and drunk.
You wouldn't want to hear what I talked about on the radio the day after that. The phone calls I took. I mean,
it was bad.
It's the ugly side of sports, but then we see this situation and this humanity with this young man in Buffalo and in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, all of his
Everybody
background.
Comes together. Everybody comes together, right? That's what he said. He said it was he was overwhelmed by the response, race, religion, all that stuff was out the window. They all came as one, which is encouraging for our country, for mankind, for sure.
I like that. See, I told you some good things are going to come out of bad things. Sometimes good things come. So we're certainly pulling for him, and it'll be a good week of football here. The Bills even get to play this weekend, and we get to figure it out. Cross our fingers. If by Thursday at 3:00, when Dennis comes on the air, Lamar is back out there looking like it's a summer day in August, and Harbaugh's chuckling, we shelved him 3 weeks ago. We leaked dumb, stupid rumors about his knee swollen to you. We just wanted to, play the mind games that we play here at the professional level. And
they play mind games on Sundays when they're on fourth down in particular.
Dennis, Vegas thinks he's playing. I'll see you on Thursday.
All right, man. Can't wait.
Dennis Koulatsos is at the Koulatsos Show, as well as Dennis Koulatsos out on the Twitter thing and the Sunday Sports Voice. Heard here on WNST AM 1570 from 3 until 5 on Thursday, and again on Sunday morning from 8 until noon. So come on back, say hello. And, of course, all of Dennis's work, including his work with Luke on Thursday, up at BaltimorePositive.com under his good-looking mug, run underneath all of our television sets and leadership and sports and stuff. Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out at G&A Coney Island Hot Dog on Thursday from 1 until 4. Come on out. Get yourself a free scratch off from the Maryland Lottery. We'll talk about all sorts of things, including neighborhoods. I got my buddy Nick from Wise Markets is coming out to hang out. Tony Della Rose is coming back to reprise his one-time radio role with me next week as well. So it's going to be a good week, Renner. A lot of friends in Cincinnati that are going to preview the Bengals side of what we just saw on Sunday, but probably a little bit different because we're going to have some of our players actually playing. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Lamar Jackson and a Festivus for the rest of us. It's BaltimorePositive.com.